Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Scary Stories We Tell. I am one of your hosts, Chris, and I'm joined once again. You have heard them here before because they're one of the co-hosts of the show, Jess Byard.
Hello.
What? You seem very confused. Where am I?
Hello, in this weird space that I frequent from time to time.
Yeah, in the audioscapes of the world, coming to you from the audioscapes of the world. No, we're here to talk about a little place on the internet called Reddit. More specifically, r/paranormal.
Textual scapes of the world.
r/paranormal is a subreddit of reddit.com where you can go and check out user submitted stories about the paranormal, the supernatural, and the unexplained. If you have heard one of these episodes of our show before, you know what the gist is, but I'll break it down for you if you are new. Jess and I are going to go back and forth and read some stories from r/paranormal. We'll give credit to the author and we'll make sure that the links to the articles are in the description of the episode if you want to read along or check them out for yourself. However, we do not know the validity of these stories. So,
listener discretion advised.
Yeah. And I mean, again, expect that Jess and I will talk about the stories when we're done reading them. But again, the validity of the stories that we are reading is not necessarily guaranteed. Sometimes it's rather obvious that they're not on the level. All of a sudden, you see a werewolf walking around outside your house and they're making the perfect werewolf noise. Maybe you just wanted to see a werewolf.
How do you know? How do you know?
You know what? I am a believer with a healthy dose of skepticism, as I know you are, and even I sometimes cannot be convinced.
Not the werewolves in the yard. I can't deal with that.
Werewolves of London, different story. Werewolves in my backyard, not so much.
Absolutely not.
That's an R.L. Stein book. Werewolves in my backyard.
Werewolves in my backyard.
The lesser known R.L.'s. That's a Fear Street title if I've ever heard it. So my submission comes from 4 months ago. It had 856 upvotes, and it is posted by one Tetra Delta. The title of the submission is "Dreamt I Died in Car Crash. Car wouldn't start today." And then it's labeled as a precognitive dream. So the submission is as follows. I do not know if this is the right place to post this, but I had a strange experience. Last night, I had an extremely vivid dream. I barely even remember dreams, that I was on my way to work and died in a car crash on the way. I woke up at 3:15 a.m. and tried to go back to sleep, but couldn't shake this feeling. Usually I go into the office on Wednesdays, so I started getting ready for work and had this feeling of utter dread. I told my girlfriend I loved her like 4 times before I left, then walked out to my car to head up to work. As soon as I tried to start the car, all the lights and head unit came on, but the car wouldn't turn over. It's always been a battery issue, so I have one of those fast chargers, put that on the terminals, tried it, and no dice. I couldn't believe it. My car had worked flawlessly other than leaving my lights on since I got it, but I was... Oh, Jesus. So this was extremely strange. I'm taking it as a sign from the universe. Just bizarre. I don't know how to feel. So into the comments... People saying it wasn't a dream. Maybe you had precognition. Some people kind of mentioned their own experiences. One of the comments, didn't have a dream, but I was sitting at a red light and instead of going immediately after it, turned green. A picture of my grandpa who passed over a decade ago popped into my head and I sat there frozen for a couple seconds. Just as I was about to drive, a large U-Haul ran its red light. Had I gone, the U-Haul would have hit me directly coming from my left and I had to turn to the left. Some people saying, a month ago I had a dream that my car wouldn't start that day. My car's never had any problems. I'm supposed to drive my nephew that day, but he already knew that it wouldn't be happening. So before I even give him a call and tell him I don't think I'll be able to give him a ride, I get into my car and boom, it won't start. I know it's not as weird as your story, but it still weirds me out. So people kind of echoing what our dear friend Tetra Delta had to say. So kicking it to you first, Jess, what's kind of your read on this story? Is this something you believe in, precognitive dreams? I mean, what they're dreaming about is not like a dinosaur walked into my front door and the next day a velociraptor knocked on my door. It's my car wouldn't start and the next day let me put it this way.
I dreamed I died in the car and then
my car wouldn't start.
Right.
It's not like I dreamed I was going to win $1 million and I won $1 million. Again, dreaming something commonplace happening and then it happens That's the question, I guess.
Right. Yeah. So I do give, I do have some beliefs in dreams, as cognition and as, just in general as kind of messages to ourselves. Right.
Sure.
I in particular get pretty vivid recurring nightmares when I am at like high stress points in my life.
Sure.
And, the themes throughout them or whatever are often, pretty obvious and to what they're referring to of what's going on in my life at any given point. So yeah, I give some credit to the idea of dreams as, premonitions. So I can't, discredit this person. This isn't, also when we're talking about the stories that are like made up and stuff like this, I feel like they tend to try to be a bit like they're more embellished and more elaborate when they're obviously fake.
Perfect things are constantly happening.
That because people want that, that shock and awe factor. But I think people who have very mundane, because I think a lot of people experience things like this, paranormal, psychic, mystic, whatever you want to call it. I think people experiences are a lot more mundane than they are, a haunted house movie.
Right. I agree. 100%.
Like that's more common.
Right.
Your lights turning on, your, floors creaking, you're hearing like weird voices and stuff. Much more likely to happen to you than like a full on, demon possession. But so yeah, I believe, I think that this person could likely be like telling a truth and just, and even still, they may very well have had this dream and their car didn't start. And sure, maybe neither one of them actually, connects to each other in any way. But it still doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just might mean there's not it might just, mean there's not a psychic connection.
Causation does not necessarily indicate correlation. It's just
correct.
And that's kind of, when I pose the question to you, it's not like they said something crazy happened and that crazy thing happened. It's an innocuous thing that could happen to any of us any day without reason.
And at that point, what is the point? What is the point of making up that little bit of a black? Like
exactly. Because
you're on the internet, you're in this forum. If you're trying to get like the, upvotes and shit, you're going to do something a bit more ridiculous. That's going to get people commenting negatively or positively. But you want people commenting. So yeah, why would you make up something as innocuous as I had a dream I died in a car crash and my car didn't start? And if so, yay, good for you, universe, and good for you, person. You obviously did something, to see that the universe was like looking out for you that day.
Well, and that for me is kind of where I come in at precognitive dreams. I have had a couple occurrences in my life where, and it happened even recently. Kate was going to go somewhere. I don't know what it was going out to do something. And for whatever reason, I got like the most sinking feelings in my stomach. Like, I don't know why. Like I have genuinely no fucking idea why, but I just remember getting this like feeling of, and they mention it here, and I think that it's an apt way of putting it. They mention utter dread. I mean, they say it explicitly, and I don't know how to explain it other than just a almost like galaxy level feeling of dread. Like it's not within me. It feels external, but it feels all encompassing, if that makes sense. Right. Like I'm inside of it, like inside of a bubble of dread. And that's what it felt like.
Just like, ooh, something is off.
Right. And again, maybe it's not even outside of my sphere of existence. It's just me feeling that way. It's not actually anything, but
sure, but your personal vibrations are off.
Right. And I remember telling Kate, I was like, wherever you're going, whatever you need to do, I will take you there. I will drop you off. Do not worry about it. Like, because I think she was going somewhere by herself. And it was like, it wasn't that I couldn't go. It was just didn't feel like it. And so I ended up just taking her and going and running whatever errand it was with her. And I don't have any earthly idea if I did or didn't prevent something from happening, because nothing happened. But again, it's like anything else, Yeah,
I've definitely had moments like that where you just feel like an overwhelming sense of, I've had nights where I'm like, thinking about going out with my friends to the bar or whatever. And I'm like all jazzed to go, whatever, all day. And then like, I get this sinking feeling of like, maybe I should. Maybe tonight's not a good night. Like maybe tonight is either like something somebody's going to get into an argument, or there's going to be somebody weird at the bar. Just something is strange. I think it's better if I stay home. And I do. Like recently that happened like on New Year's Eve. Like I was bummed that I didn't go out like to where it's planned to go out. But like all day, just me and Maggie were just having this kind of weird feeling about going out that evening. And it was like, maybe we should just stay in. So we just like went to their friend's housewarming party or New Year's Eve party for a little bit. You know, it was very small, you know, low key appetizers and drinks sort of thing. And then we left and stayed in. And the next day I was taking trash out, and one of my neighbors that I'm friendly with, just, you know, chit-chatting with me. And she was like, yeah, I was just decided to stay home. It was like, I guess everything was like really weird. My friend texted me and said like the bars were like weird and people were being off and whatever. And so it was like, I was glad I was staying at home. And I'm like, shit, yeah, no, that's why I stayed at home. Just had like a weird vibe. So yeah, I that's a long-winded way of saying yes. I totally get that weird sinking, just like something not good is going to happen if I do or don't do this thing.
Right. And, you know, the other thing is, because obviously this isn't like they were sitting at the light, because that's the thing. Some of these are like they were sitting at the light and then they, you know, this thing flashed in the, you know, that's like Final Destination. We're talking about like you seeing something, but you're the only one seeing it and it's only being presented to your consciousness, however you want to take it.
I've never ever encountered. Like I've never had a visual premonition, unless you count like dream deja vu. Sure. Like I feel like I've dreamt this or whatever, but like, a physical like image coming up to me, or like a seeing a scenario play out that nobody else sees. Yeah, no, I don't. I've never experienced that. And that I would question more.
Well, and that's the question that I have here, because this is kind of both, right? Because he's having a precognition about this thing happening to him, and then the next day his car doesn't start. So like you mentioned, they could be existing at the same time with no causation between them, right? But I have my question here is, if we play this scenario out in a different direction, does it maybe shine a little bit more light on what's going on? So let's assume that he had this dream, but then let's play the scenario out in a different direction where he is able to make his car start the next day. He gets up, goes to work like normal. Does he find himself at any point during the day in the position that he found himself in the dream the night before? That's the question that I have. And I think that that's maybe even the more interesting topic to kick around, because yes, he never had the opportunity to be in the position from his dream, right? So we assume because the car didn't start, therefore he was never going to be in that position that he was in the dream. But my question to you is, does that mean that if he had been able to start his car, that he would have then been back into that position? And do you think that there would have been another opportunity for him to divert? Or if his car had started,
the universe would have like been like, okay, you didn't listen to the first.
Right.
Like, let's say, okay, so like he gets in the car, he turns the key, it doesn't turn over. He turns the key again, it does turn over. He pulls out. Would the universe be like, all right, one more shot,
right?
One more shot to give this guy? No, I don't think so.
So you think that it's like a one opportunity type thing?
I think you get one pass when the universe is feeling generous. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, because it comes back to, again, and that's why I'm asking about visual premonition, right? Because you have someone in the comments mentioning, I was sitting at the light, which is what this guy is talking about, right? The guy was talking about him being in a car crash. And this person then finds themselves at the light and a visual premonition happens, which causes them to stop in that moment. The question that I have is, did that person have any other opportunity throughout the day? Because that's like a matter of seconds. That's the thing here.
Like if you don't, like, are you like, if you just aren't recognizing the
right
signs the universe are giving? I mean, your car not starting is a pretty like not easy sign to ignore,
especially if you need it to get around.
I think like if the universe is warning you of like your imminent death, it's going to give you better signs than like 333 on your fucking watch, like, you know.
I guess the question then, the final question on the topic of this Reddit post is, at what level do you acknowledge what's going on as a kind of a warning of a threat? versus it's just, it's something that can be ignored. Because like you just said, if we think that the universe doesn't give you more than one chance, then you only get one chance. But I don't know if that's the case or not. Let's assume that the universe gives you multiple chances. What, like you said, if it's just the clock changing or something, what level does one pay attention to signs and wonders in relation to their life versus just ignoring it, right? Like you said, the car not starting, that makes your life pretty miserable. But
right,
what level is that at? That's pretty high. But there are plenty of other things where it's like, oh, I didn't do that. Like example. So when Kate and I were going on vacation in 2021, we went to Arizona and we almost hit an elk. And I talked about it, almost 2 years ago now on an episode right after it happened. If we had stopped for me to eat, if we had taken the dogs out to go to the bathroom a third time, it never would have happened. Never would have happened. I got no precognitions about it other than my wife asking me, hey, do you want to eat your sandwich now or while we're driving? Like, what the fuck precognition is that? I'm more asking, like, why the fuck is one person's car not starting and the universe is perfectly okay with me plowing into an elk? Is more what I'm getting at.
I don't know. Maybe that person is like exceptional of some kind. Not saying you're not exceptional.
I'm not exceptional enough.
Maybe they're gonna
level.
Stop like some horrible, history altering event. And they must stay alive longer.
Well, but the question is but then that's not just the universe, right? That's something. The question is what's making these happen? If there's something making these happen, what is it? Is it just the interconnectivity of the universe? Is there, somebody pulling this? Because again, what you're talking about is what if somebody has to be pulling the strings if it's you are going to cure cancer and you were prevented from being hit by a bus as a child. Like, how can we know that without it having already happened too?
Okay, so what if? All right, so we'll bring in multiple.
No, so here comes simulation theory.
No, multiple dimension type thing. So there's you right now, or this man right now.
I wish everybody could see what Jess is doing. This is you. Just has one finger up.
And you have a dream, right? Dreams are ourselves. There are, our brains doing a magical thing for us.
Right.
Ostensibly, they would be related to the general vibrations we have as people, right?
Sure.
Connecting to our world around us.
Right.
So insert multiple dimensions here. What if those vibrations go through the dimensions to yourself, like in wherever, these different universes are, and it happens to be on your future self, like you can it connects to your future self.
Okay.
It can sense that the dangerous thing is going to happen because it sees it happens. And when it happens, it reverberates back to you and goes into your dreams, and your dream warns you.
So the multiple dimension is not about me existing currently, but me existing in the future. Okay. Everything's happening all at once.
Yeah. That kind of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Everything is time is a flat circle.
Yes.
Yeah. I kind of, honest to God, and this is, we kind of have gone into a different direction here, but I like this direction that we've headed because it really speaks to something that I've been really struggling with. Time.
Same.
Right? Like in a way
weird.
In a way that I never have before.
Yeah, I went to Maggie picked me up from work and took me to pick up lunch in the middle of the day. And I just went to Wendy's because I wanted chili and a baked potato. And we went to Wendy's. We went back to my job. I got to my desk and I was like, I don't remember a goddamn thing about the interaction at Wendy's, like at all. Like the ordering of the food, the getting the food out of the window, all the things. And it was like no time. I'm like, what is happening? And it's various different things, not just stuff like that, but just various different time issues.
So the thing
on time, I'm struggling with being on time like I never have before.
Really?
Okay.
Huh. I mean, again, if time is just a construct, being late or being on time really is just,
sure.
Time is a human construct. Nature doesn't observe time the way we do. And for me, that's the thing that I struggle with is like internalizing time. Because for me, and you and I were talking about this before we started recording, I am a night owl. I am up until 3 or 4 in the morning, and I will start the recording process or the work day in a lot of ways, probably around like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And I'll be in here until like midnight at least. That's like, and then you stand up and walk out, and it's like like it doesn't. Yeah. Right now it's 7 o'clock. Right now it's 7:24. This is something we're never supposed to do as podcasters, is tell what time it is or what day it is, because then it dates the show and then all of a sudden it becomes invalid. Yeah. Right. It's 7:30 now. I guarantee you when I'm done for the evening recording, it'll be midnight at least. And I will go, that was weird that I recorded today, but I don't like, it just doesn't feel real. The only way I remember it happened is because we're going to have this recording. And it's like you said about your interaction at Wendy's. It's just like, it feels like somebody turned the dial up on how time is perceived. And I know that everybody says that the older you get, the harder it is to perceive time. But are you telling me that at some point days are going to go like that? As if they already aren't?
Right. Like even more so gone.
Yeah.
Like it's like a work day. Like it's the whole day, it feels like. And then it's done. And then I'm asleep. And then I'm back at work. And I did you watch Severance?
No, I haven't, but I know enough about it to know what you're getting at.
But sometimes it starts to feel that way, like where I wake up and it's like, oh, it's back here again, back to do the thing again.
Well, and I always wonder if
and then it's all gone.
I wonder if we're perceiving this all incorrectly. I wonder if the dreams are the reality and this is the non-existence. Because there's times we talked about, but it would make a lot more sense in a way.
Ooh, that'd be terrible. My dreams are awful.
But that would kind of be the point, though. Do you know what I mean?
Where like you need the mundane because everything in the world, in the quote unquote real world, is horrible.
I don't know, like
very disjointed.
It feels like when we
filled with people you vaguely know.
It feels like when you wake up, when I wake up, I feel like I'm going to sleep more than I'm waking up in a lot of ways. And it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to cope with. Cause again, like it all goes back into this idea of the perception of time. Cause a lot of times I will close my eyes and open them and then it's another day. And like, it's a hard thing to struggle with sometimes. Because sometimes it feels like I close my eyes and open them and it's all of a sudden it's December again. That's the problem. And that's where this precognition comes into it. Because it's like, again, if these people are able to see that, has this already taken place? Are we really not perceiving time? Because like you said, your idea of what this could be is an interesting one. And I think it's one that like, again, reality is so subjective that I can't say if you're right or wrong, but...
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah.
Again,
right?
Like if something is dictating that people need to stay alive for a certain reason, then that has already happened. So something is getting to us from somewhere else. Yeah. Wow. We went all over the place with this one.
Yeah.
So
what did the comments say?
The comments are really just, again, everybody is just, I don't think nobody is really taking like you're not like telling the truth. It's more people just going, that's weird. Or yeah, I've had something similar happen.
That's weird. Yeah, that's fair.
It's weird. So what do you got for me? What did you find on r/paranormal?
All right. So I have something from yesterday.
Wow.
Something new and fresh. From posted by user Swimmy33011. Got lured to the forest by something.
Oh wow.
Its flare is experience. It had 249 upvotes and like 80 comments. So this happened to me about an hour ago. I was walking my dog and we were walking down the street of the neighborhood I live. I then heard an owl making their typical noise. I then walked further with my dog through the neighborhood with the owl assumingly constantly moving even though there were no real trees to land it. I followed the sound further because I have a personal connection to them. After many direction changes, I found myself down at the forest's edge. When I arrived there, we were standing before a dark entrance. The owl was gone and a creepy crawling could be heard, which was faster than it should have been and being directed towards me coming from the deep inside wood. Then I heard the owl again, hooting from the direction the strange approaching crawling sound came from. My dog then became terrified and started threatening whatever was lurking in the darkness. At that point, because the crawling became even more faster and unsettling, I sprinted backwards around 30 meters and turned around to see if something was behind me. Then it was an owl again, as if telling me to come back. When I told my dog to calm him down that we will head home, a distorted laughter was what I heard. A laughter not really human. After that, I headed straight home and locked all the doors. It was and is nighttime here. Thank you for reading, and please share your thoughts on the matter. I don't know how to explain any.
So what are those, before we break it down, what are those good old Reddit folks? What do they say? What's their take on the laughter in the woods?
So the overall most popular idea is that it is fae.
Okay.
Lots of sounds like fae, could be fae. A few people asking where they are. Oh, we do have a small update. Hold on. Small update from our original poster. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts on the matter. It really means a lot to me. I slept well and tried to find answers that could maybe debunk my story. Personal connection to owls. I mean that we once raised up owls that fell from their nest. I really like those little creatures. I personally can't imagine creatures like a wendigo. So someone suggests wendigo. I can't imagine creatures like a wendigo living in my forest. It is a forest of my childhood where I regularly walk my dog when it's daytime, and where I have been many times when it was dark. I never had any experience like that before. Not even my family members who have lived there since the 50s have had experiences. My grandmother's home was actually only 60 meters away from the forest. And the only, quote, strange moments that occurred were some possibly imagined white creature in the corner of my eye, but one was never there when I turned. Nothing ever happened after that. Could maybe have been a tree or something. So that was the update from the user, which was effectively they never figured out what it was. But yes, lots of fae speculation.
So, the fact that somebody mentioned Wendigo's not surprising, I wouldn't think.
Mm-hmm.
At least for me. They didn't say where this took place, though, right?
No.
Okay.
No, they didn't. Unless I can figure it out from their profile.
Did this person to you seem like a native English speaker? Not to profile them, but you know what I'm getting at, though.
I mean, European, at least, because they're using meters.
Okay.
And
so they're using meters. So they're European then. Wendigos, it's interesting. When I think of Wendigo, it's just, I feel like Wendigo is not something that is European.
They're saying forest also, like generally states would be like
I guess
woods,
I guess they could be like, Canadian. Again, Canadians use meters and the metric system, but a Wendigo is a North American mythological creation. I mean, that's a First Peoples thing. That's not something that would be in European mythology or even European folklore. So that's why I asked, do you think this person's a native English speaker? Because I wonder if they're stateside. Because again, if they're stateside, okay, Wendigo makes perfect sense. But again, a laughter in the woods, there are birds that laugh like people. Ravens can laugh, right? Can't they?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of birds can mimic laughter. I mean, yeah, depending where they are, definitely. I don't know. I mean, this person speaks English well enough, but it is a little bit interesting in some ways, like just structurally. So I can see it being a very fluent second language, but not a native,
So that's why it's like Wendigo just doesn't strike me. I feel like whenever we talk about stuff regarding American folklore, it's either ghosts, Bigfoot, or then Chupacabra, and then Wendigo. And Wendigo just feels like all encompassing because I'm not even sure and everybody can agree on the definition of Wendigo. And I'm not talking about the actual definition. I'm talking about people who are just saying like, oh, that's a Wendigo. It's not a catch-all term. It's a very specific thing.
But, okay, so they're lured there by this owl-seeming things. Now, owls aren't birds that mimic, like, humans. They're pretty screechy creatures. But then there's also the creepy crawling on the ground towards them, which is not an owl thing, as far as I know. I don't know. I am not an owl expert.
We have Jess Byard on the line, owl expert. I was waiting for you to make that joke, given that what is it they say in the show? The owls
are not what they seem.
The owls are not what they seem.
Yeah.
I've always struggled with my feelings on going out into the woods late at night because I know, like a lot of other people, myself included, I've camped before. Plenty of times, and I'm not like alone in this. And being out in the woods at night is scary. It is. I mean, it's scary on its own. There doesn't have to be anything out there for it to be scary, to be out in the woods, far from civilization, back feeling the way the people who colonized and the people who lived in this country long ago feel. Because again, that's the closest you can get without really going back in time, to go out into nature with a tent is trying to reconnect in a lot of ways with, the kind of the ways of life from a day long ago. That shit's scary without anything being out there. And it gives you a real appreciation of electricity and locks on doors. And and this is for me, one of the things that a lot of people don't think about when it comes to camping, at least people who don't just have done it before, it's like halfway impossible to get comfortable out in nature unless you have a foam pad or a cot or a sleeping bag or a pillow. Like being out,
to be like off the ground.
Right. To be off the ground is like something you take for granted when you live in a house. You worry about animals and pests and shit getting into your, spiders getting in your house. You're out in their domain when you're out there. So for me, it's like, I always take these kinds of stories with a grain of salt, not because I don't want to believe them, but because I've been out in the woods late at night with myself as an adult, with myself as a kid, with myself as a teenager, and it's fucking scary across the board. There's never wasn't as an adult, it's still scary. So that all being said, there's a lot of shit in the woods. Again, there's so much in the woods that it's like it could have just been an actual animal. But if it's dark and you can't see, anything is scary in the woods.
Right. Yeah, I am. I'm pretty much in your fault in your court here. Like it for me, you don't know what the hell you're looking at if it's nighttime in the woods. Nighttime in the woods. You don't know what you're looking at. You don't know what you're hearing unless, this person did not indicate, I understand that this is property or whatever, wooded area that is behind their family home that they've spent a lot of time in through their whole life. You're not an expert, right? You're not an expert on everything living in the woods and its movements and its sounds. And I think a lot of things can sound that way that live in the woods, and
anything that walks on the ground can, as far as I'm concerned. If you can't see it, anything walking through leaves and making that noise is gonna be unsettling.
Right. Now, they do mention that it follows them and turns back into an owl. So
again, their perception is that it's following them.
Yes.
That's their perception. Yes. They didn't see it. Again, the thing that you have to, like anything else, the grain of salt that has to be taken here is you were out in the woods at night. You're already putting yourself in a heightened state of awareness because one of your senses has effectively been taken away. Your ability to see has been taken away in a lot of ways. So you're already heightened. Any noise, close your eyes in your house for 10 minutes at night and you'll hear all kinds of shit. You'll hear all kinds of bumps and creaks. You live in an apartment, you live in a townhome, you live in a house, you live in an apartment, you live wherever the fuck you live. You're going to hear stuff.
I hear a lot of, car. I live, right facing a pretty busy street. So I hear a lot of cars and sirens and all that. But even that's unsettling,
Right. It's unsettling in a different way.
You can psych yourself out in a lot of ways with your, everything is heightened. If you're in the woods in the dark, your senses are heightened because your body is like, I'm in the dark. I need to heighten my hearing. I need to heighten my awareness. I need to heighten my adrenaline in case something comes out. It's just, natural instincts, survival instincts inside yourself.
And as a Westerner, or at least, again, someone who speaks English proficiently enough, there's no way they haven't been bombarded with all variety of things that have taken place in the woods.
Can kill you in the woods.
Right. Movies. Fictional tales, let alone actual nonfiction tales. But there's enough fictional things that you can see either directly or indirectly that can completely warp the way you think about something like being out in the woods at night. If you've seen movies where people are being stalked through the woods at night, Blair Witch and things of that variety, you're going to already be scared shitless. I would like to believe that there's something horrifying in the woods waiting to lure people out there. I really do, because as Adam Green said in Digging Up the Marrow, I like to believe that there are monsters out there. And I do, because it's not fun to believe that there aren't monsters, right?
Faye would be terrifying. I was about to say Faye would be cool, but Faye would be terrifying, realistically. We should do like a multiple episode on various
on our friends
creatures.
on our friends of the woods, our woodland creature friends.
Yeah, our friends. That's what they are. But
until they smash you to death with their clubs or rip you apart in their mass numbers,
right?
Yeah,
or take over your fucking life or whatever.
Yeah,
like no, thank you. But yeah, the likelihood of this being just a weird animal or a combination of sounds and sound traveling and bouncing off trees and various things to rile up your senses versus a fae or a wendigo.
Wendigo's a catch-all term, it feels like, and that's unfair because wendigos are fucking terrifying.
Yeah, there's a few people in the comments like saying skinwalker and wendigos.
Skinwalker is something else completely. Holy shit!
I know.
Skinwalkers are more of a medicine man, like a witch doctor, like a witch.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you. Okay, let me just ask you something as we close out this one. Let's do like we did on the last one. Say there is something in the woods. What is it? What is it?
If there's something in the woods,
if there was something in the woods,
everyday fucking thing.
Yeah, if there's something in the woods trying to lure them to them, what is it?
I would be inclined to say a doppelganger.
I think that's an interesting answer.
I honestly would say a doppelganger or a fae. Like, I mean, in the woods, like in a forest,
right? Yeah,
like some sort of pixie creatures, like one of those, various woodland creatures that are all cutesy, whatever, but then ultimately just very malicious and like self-serving,
puckwudgies.
Yeah, right. So if I knew exactly where it was, I'd probably give you like a specific cryptid or like specific area theme creature, but I would say either a doppelganger or a fae creature of some kind. What about you?
Yeah, the laughter is not like a siren call. It's
no.
That's what I don't understand. Like when they're talking about like, oh, it seemed like it was beckoning me back. It's like that is not the sound of beckoning. That is not that. That is the sound of, in my mind, something trying to keep you away, not trying to lure you in.
Appearing as an owl, so it's like, ooh, you really like owls. Come with me.
Yeah, but then the laughter is not going to continue to bring you in.
No, it's just going to be fucking scary.
Menacing laughter is menacing, and menacing laughter is not received very well by most people, I would assume.
No, I'd be like, bye.
Yeah, so I like the idea of doppelganger. I think that's something that we've never really talked about on the show, but it's something that it's a weird part. It's a weird paranormal supernatural thing because it's kind of like
freak me the fuck out.
It's a catch-all, but not really. But it's not something that gets talked about enough, I feel like, because it's not that exciting, right? It is, but like I can see why someone wouldn't find it nearly as exciting as aliens or Bigfoot or something else. Like I can understand because it's just
I guess
you.
Yeah.
But you, another version of you that you are not okay with is we've been wrong this entire time, Chris. I've been wrong. I was saying the wrong thing. I meant changeling. Oh, I mean, same thing though. We're talking about the same idea.
Change appearances, though, right?
But wouldn't your change? Yeah, but
they just take you over,
right?
Well, that's the thing. Like to me, like the doppel, it's like the evil version of you, right? Like,
well, that's what I was.
That's creepy.
But see, that's what I mean when I said doppelganger's kind of a catch-all, because a changeling is by definition a doppelganger.
Yeah.
I think changelings are horrifying. Like anything like Invasion of the Body Snatchers is a lot scarier of a premise than it is a movie.
Inside.
Yeah, it's scarier than it is a movie because like there's no way you can make that movie.
It's a good movie. It's not scary. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, but the premise is horrifying.
It's upsetting. Very upsetting.
I think with something like this, for me, the idea of a entity or a being trying to subvert your own autonomy and take over your body and turn you into something else or trap you in your own body where you have limited functionality. I think that for me is that's scarier than anything you can really think about, right? That's fucking horrifying. Because at least Jason or Freddy kills you. At least you're fucking dead. At least you're dead. You're cut in half. You're cut in half.
Dead. I feel like you're dead if you get an invasion of the bodies.
But in that version, yeah. But there are plenty of other pieces of fiction where even Get Out.
But like if you're like a doppelganger, like if you get doppelganged, or
that's a different episode, Jess.
Or changelinged.
If you get doppelganged by the Mothman.
And you're still around and you have to deal with this, now it's like fucking up your life and you're dealing with the consequences. I just feel like that's scary.
But if you get taken over and they take over your body, but you're still there, but not able to control it, that's horrifying.
That would be pretty horrible. Yes.
That is Get Out. That's, so many pieces of fiction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And that's horrifying. Like, I don't know how, because again, like it's a scare. It's that to show that is hard, to convey that that's what's going on is hard. But if you think about it for 5 minutes, it's like, there's nothing worse than that.
Yeah. They're just there.
Yeah.
Hanging out.
Yeah. You're watching. You're the constant companion. You're the
deep down.
Yeah.
Floating, watching this old white person take your body over.
Right. Did you watch the Cabinet of Curiosities, the Guillermo del Toro thing on Netflix?
I did, yeah. Maggie and I watched it.
There, the autopsy episode is kind of in that same vein of this.
Yeah.
That was scary. Like that idea. That idea is horrifying.
Isn't there like 14 Tales from the Crypt episodes like that?
Yeah. I mean, Judy, you're not yourself today?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's plenty of episodes where people get body swapped and body switched willingly and unwillingly.
But I mean, specifically the autopsy, like I'm under the knife, but I can't do anything about it situation.
Yeah, I guess.
There was the one with like Miguel Ferrer. Was that?
Yeah. Dylan McDermott.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Fuck. I was starting to get.
Yeah, where you're like trapped in your own brain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. I don't know. I don't think they saw anything. I don't think anything was trying to take them over. I think that shit in the woods at night is scary. And I think that we're going to come up with something much scarier than whatever they heard, because it was probably like a mouse. It was a mouse walking through the leaves and an owl was chasing after it. And it was scurrying around. We didn't understand the biosphere. Right? We don't understand the interactions in the environment, but it was an owl chasing after a mouse that was walking around in the leaves.
Look, it's better than that, than like it was a bear or something, which is a very real thing that definitely could have killed you. And not, a fairy.
Right. What's worse, a fairy or a bear?
A bear.
Exactly.
Immediately, what's worse, a bear.
Yeah. Fairies are supposed to be cute. We know that they're not, but they're supposed to be. Well, so I've got one more. This is a rather long one, and I think it's a good way to end the episode. And it's got a great title too. So this is from a month ago. It was submitted by, and you're gonna love this name, Reefer ZZZZ. So Reefers.
Gotcha. Yeah, love it.
Not one, not two, not three, but 4 Z's.
I believe this man already. I believe this person already.
This was upvoted 489 times. It's labeled as an experience, and the name of the post is ICU, as in ICU, not ICU, but intensive care unit. The dead.
Yes, the place in the hospital.
Right. ICU, the dead, and the demon.
Okay.
So, yeah. 1994. I was 24 years old at the ER with a hand infection. The doc discovered I had a piece of glass lodged in my pinky finger and it had become infected. He removed the glass and irrigated the wound and sent me home with antibiotics, saying, if it gets any worse, just come back in. I drove 30 minutes home and began feeling immense pain within minutes of being home. I immediately returned to the hospital.
It got worse.
But by the time I arrived, the pain was completely unbearable. The infection felt like someone had drilled a 3/4-inch hole in the palm of my hand with a spade bit, poured gasoline in it, and lit it on fire. This is a very crafty, very crafty person. Very specific, 3/4 of an inch with a spade bit.
I like your descriptive language.
Yeah. My veins in my right arm were purple all the way to my shoulder as the infection traveled. I collapsed on the floor of the ER lobby, and the next thing I know, they're cutting a ring off a swollen finger and prepping me for immediate surgery. The surgeon said, "Are you willing to lose your hand to save your life?" I responded, "Do whatever you need to do." I woke up post-surgery in ICU with a severe strep infection. I still had my hand, but they had to open up my pinky, palm, and wrist to scrape the infection from my nerves and tendons. I stayed in the ICU for 2 weeks, and my blood counts were still not improving at all. One night I was sleeping and had a dream or vision, if you will. I was awakened by a black shadow at the foot of my bed. He had lifted and dropped the end of my bed, startling me awake, then disappeared. Terrified, I rang the nurse's bell several times to no avail, so I got out of my bed to find my way to the nurse's station. The hospital was different. The lights were off in my room and the door was open. The hallway was dimly lit. I walked down the hall and it was nasty. The walls were urine colored and filth was dripping and oozing down the walls. There were a few people about, but they were dead, shuffling about with their hospital gowns, pulling their IV stands slowly along the dimly lit corridor. I ran back to my room and jumped into bed. The black shadow returned, and now I realized he was either death or a demon. He did not have a detailed facial or body features, just a black humanoid body surrounded by an aura of darkness. Without uttering a word or making a sound, he violently and repeatedly lifted the end of the heavy hospital bed high and slammed it down, shaking it side to side each time over and over again. Finally, I said loudly and with force, "In the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to go." The room became momentarily black, and then bam, a bright white electricity shattered the void and enveloped the demon, crackling in electric vehemence. The being reacted as if being violently electrocuted and fried by 20,000 volts of pure electricity, and suddenly it was gone, and I awoke. The bright lights, sanitized room, and beeping monitors were a welcome sight. I rang the nurse's bell and yelled for help.
The nurses.
They came immediately and checked everything out and took a blood draw for the lab. The next morning, the physician and medical team came in and told me that my blood work came back great with a normal white cell count. This after 14 days of no improvement until now. I was released the next day and went through vigorous PT to regain 100% use of my hand. It took 28 years to write this experience down, so I share it with you here for the first time.
Okay.
The comments.
That's a lot. What do the people say?
A lot of people are talking about similar experiences. I had a very similar experience when I had severe sepsis and 108 fever. That night, there was an angel of death standing behind my bed. It was a black void, cloud, fog in the shape of a human. I was so sick, I just assumed I was hallucinating. A lot of people saying similar things about, I was on the brink of death and I had an experience, or I knew someone who had an experience because they were on the brink of death. So nobody's saying, again, this is r/paranormal, so people aren't coming in here to say, you're fucking lying, but
sure,
people call bullshit when there is bullshit. Yeah. Well, people are calling it when they feel it, because again, the last thing anybody wants is, someone to come in here and start stinking it up with nonsense. So all that aside, what did you think of this one, Jess?
I mean, it's a lot. And this type of stuff to me is always very conflicting because it's the life, it's the afterlife potential thing, right? When it comes to a lot of these experiences.
Well, they invoke Jesus Christ directly.
Exactly, yeah. So it's a very Christian afterlife. And so I'm already inclined to be skeptical. I know that this is a cop-out answer. But other than this person, because it is, very descriptive, pretty decently written, very elaborate story, could be just some bullshit. But like you said, generally the people on here do tend to call that out. This is resonating with people in a way that it is making them you want to relate to it and comment on it in, at least a conversational way, if not a positive way. And again, feel like this is a cop-out answer, but I truly believe this person believes they had this experience.
Agreed. I agree with you on that.
But I don't believe that this experience is what they're taking it to be. I think that a lot of these things, like these people say in the comments, they're having these hallucinations, seeing these things, feeling these things when they're very sick, when they're at the, literally having a brink of death moment, and the brain and synapses are firing, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like all systems are failing.
Right. So it's like in Star Trek, those red lights are just going off.
Yeah. Everything is just flying. And I think that our brains are extremely powerful. Like we talked about with dreams earlier in this episode. I think our brains are extremely powerful. We already know we have dreams, and we can, as human beings, not everybody, but a lot of people can visualize things on a daily basis, just, without, a prompt or anything like that. People can see full on shit in their mind while they're looking at other things. Like we can do that.
Right.
So
and sometimes it's not
that,
even like a disease. I mean, that's schizophrenia, but that is schizophrenia in a lot of ways. But like people can do it without that being part of their life as well, which is equally as kind of impressive.
The mundane things that we can do with our brain, on a daily basis are, pretty fantastic as they are. But yeah, I think that our brains are doing a lot. And I think that that's what's happening. I think that it's just a chemical reaction for the most part, coupled with, our memories, our thoughts, our, everything that's our knowledge, our whole knowledge bank and our whole memory bank. So yes, a lot of these things that are very religious probably come from very religious backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, that's what they're going to see, right? Because all these near-death experiences and things, people are seeing their version of an afterlife. They're never like, oh my God, I went to the afterlife and I saw Zeus and Hera and everybody. Like, there's nothing.
Who are you?
There's no other. Yeah. There's no other. Yeah. It's just they see their version of what they're predicting the afterlife is going to be. So, or what it could be. Not necessarily what they're wanting it to be, but factors of it that,
right.
are there. So yes, I believe that this person believes they had that experience, but I think that it is a chemical reaction to the brain mixed with our, built-in memory banks.
Yeah, no, I actually was, that was kind of the exact spot that I came down here. It's just, look, if you weren't in the hospital and this happened to you while you're in your bed, in your house, I would say, holy shit, this was a crazy experience. But you were in the hospital. And look, here's the crazy thing. Okay. Friend of the podcast, Dustin, had something similar happen with his hand where he got a piece of glass in his hand and it was like infected beyond belief. And it was like, he had to go back to the hospital 2 or 3 times. He was in the hospital for a while because of it.
Yeah, that shit can get serious. Sepsis, man.
Yeah, so this is not a joke. This is not like you've said, like you're in a position where you might die. So your body is going to do everything it can to kind of ease you into
your pain, your like everything, like your body's trying to stay alive, and your brain wants you to be completely unaware of it. Because you can't handle it.
Yeah. Nobody's consciousness, even if they're prepared for it, is actually prepared to be unexisting. And so, honestly, what I think this is like you said, it's the brain trying to ease the body into death in the most, I guess, in the best way that it knows how to. And again, that's going to vary from person to person. Like you said, I don't think if you or I were in this position, we would invoke Jesus or anything.
No, probably not.
Look, I don't think demons necessarily have to be biblical creations. Negative energy, negative spirits can exist without a biblical connotation. Right. That all being said, that's not what's happening here. This is literally a hallucination of someone who's in the ICU, in the intensive care unit where people go after being in car accidents, being shot.
Like very critical care.
Right. So the fact that you're sitting in bed and you're having a near-death experience, seemingly, I would say, by their definition, I would think that is something that is being more fueled by your present condition on the corporeal plane, less anything intruding from the intangible plane. Like you said, I don't think there's a demon walking around. I don't think any of that. I think you're literally dying and your body doesn't want you to freak out while you're dying.
Now, am I mistaken that in this story, I think part of it that they are cured?
Yeah, at the end of it, they're fine. The fever broke. I mean, that's what it sounds like. Like I have personally had hallucinations from a high fever. I've had it. I remember how wild they were.
When I was a kid, and I had my tonsils taken out, and I got like sick after I got an infection, and I had like a horrendous fever, and I just remembered. I don't remember specific hallucinations because I was like 8 or 9 when this happened. But yeah, I remember just feeling completely like nothing is real. I don't know where I am. Who are you? Like, I don't know what anything is. Like, people would come visit me. I have no fucking recollection of like interacting with them at all. I did. Don't remember it. So yeah, brain does wacky things.
I had this happen to me when I was 21. We went and had dinner for my birthday and I got food poisoning really bad. Oof. And I was running a really high fever and I was having hallucinations that I was actually in a wrestling ring wrestling. And like, it was like I was living in that world and everything. Like I remember enough of it, but like it wasn't happening, but it felt real.
So what you're saying is your near-death experience is going to be you in a wrestling ring.
Not tapping out, not being counted out.
Not tapping out, just like kicking ass, yeah.
He kicked out at 3, by God. No, I ultimately think that, heaven and hell are not a thing the way we perceive them to be. I think heaven and hell are a construct of our own mind, and whenever our body turns off, our mind disconnects and goes there. And I think that you are a better judge of whether or not you're going to hell than anybody else. I think someone who's a terrible person's going to go to hell because their subconscious
is a guilt factory. Work on your healing, folks.
Their subconscious knows that they're a terrible person and that they deserve to go somewhere where they will have to work on themselves outside of the physical plane.
That's a good concept for a show. That's a good concept for a show, that you discover that the afterlife is just your subconscious. And if you didn't work on any of your like trauma and healing through your life, you just like are fucked.
That's what hell is for someone who never wanted to work on it.
You have to figure it out.
Yeah. Isn't hell for someone like that the fact that they have to work on their problem as opposed to killing, gay men and putting their penises in jars or burying them under their house or being president of the United States? I mean, any of those,
it's a similar show it would be a similar show to Good Place, just in a different realm.
Yeah.
And focusing on like your subconscious rather than.
But that's what I believe all of this is. And that's what I believe. Like you said, heaven, you're not going to go to somebody else's heaven and you're not going to go to somebody else's hell. You're going to go to one of the two that you deserve, and your own brain is going to know where you're going.
Yes.
Because your own brain is the only thing your own consciousness is the only thing that's been there the entire time. And there's nothing you can do to shut it off. So, and that's
keep going.
That's why I think people who are religious are you're barking up the wrong tree. Cause like, there's nothing there. There's not going to be anything you can do about it other than just being a good person now. There's no guarantee of anything else. Just be a good person now. And your subconscious will recognize that.
Just ease yourself into the mortal plane by being a nice person while you're here.
Yeah. And you'll be rewarded by your own subconscious when you die.
Right. I'm not saying that the person who posted this is not a nice person. We do not know.
Right. No.
But, generally, if you're worried about going to hell, maybe just be a little nicer.
Right.
Right.
Don't yell at the people that get your order wrong. Don't be a piece of shit. It's not that hard.
Right.
I've never yelled at anybody at a restaurant, and I went out to eat tonight and they got my order so wrong and they didn't give me the right thing, and I did not turn around and go and scream at them.
No, I've never once yelled at a fucking service worker ever.
No. There's a
I've
special
never yelled at anyone in public ever. You just don't do that in public.
There's a special place in hell for people that do that. Their own subconscious hell. So I think this is good. This is a very kind of all the stories were kind of at least the opening and the closing story were kind of in the same vein.
Yeah.
In your own mind.
And got to go down some interesting rabbit holes that we haven't yet got to explore. So
yeah, maybe for a future episode, we'll explore them further.
Doppelgangers and fairy episodes. And have we done near-death experiences?
Richard and I have talked about it because that's a thing that he's super into, but we've never dived. Emma and I did a reincarnation episode a couple years ago. So kind of like sideways from that. So.
Right, yeah.
You can find all those episodes on the Scary Stories We Tell RSS feed. Where can people find you, Jess, when you're not here?
You can find me on Instagram at WriterJessByard. Pretty much everything I'm doing goes there. You can find my various photography accounts and all of that stuff there. Also, you can find me on various other podcasts here on Chris's Weirding Way Network, such as the Culture Cast, where we talk about movies every month with different theme. You can find us, Chris, just he and I, on our other shows. The one season show. I was like, one scary story we tell. Nope, that's not it.
One season of show.
The one season show. And what's our other show, Chris? We got another one.
Do we?
Do we? No, we don't.
It's this. You're on it right now. You're here on it.
I think that we've talked about doing other shows, and maybe one of them just is like lying in my head. Okay. So you can just find me on Culture Cast and one season show and here. That's it.
And Bollywood Cinema Club.
That's it. Fuck.
Yeah,
see,
that's
I
what
knew
it
I
is.
always won. I wasn't crazy.
Bollywood Cinema Club. Yeah. Like Jess mentioned, you can find me here at weirdingwaymedia.com, which is where all the shows that Jess just mentioned, along with Mike White's The Projection Booth, Father Malone's Astounding Tales from the Public Domain, all kinds of stuff. You can go and find all that at weirdingwaymedia.com. As for this show, scarystorieswetell.com, Scary Stories WT on all social media. And as always, please like, rate, and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get it, because that helps us find the audience that we know is out there waiting to hear us talk about weird shit. Jess, as always, this is fun.
As always.
As always, it's fun. And as always, we'll let our good friend, the host of Sightings, Mr. Tim White, lead us out.
No mystery is closed to an open mind.